Yeah, no, obviously I want to welcome all of you guys for coming on. I very much appreciate it. Obviously, Bud, CEO and executive producer, Expedition Back to the Future, and Ashleigh Allam. I pronounce your last name right? Allam?
Allam.
Allam. And it's funny because I just asked how to pronounce your last name and I still got it wrong. I know Patrick's
Okay. Everybody,
producer as well. So obviously tickled pink to be able to talk to both of you, and Bill and Patrick Shea, who I've been fortunate enough to speak to in the past. But I want to thank all of you guys for taking a little bit of time and coming on and talking a little bit about the expedition Back to the Future. Obviously, I've seen it. You guys had to hold me off from posting pictures before I shouldn't have. And
wait a minute, no, I don't think it's holding up. I think we had to have you take them down.
Yeah. So no, listen, you guys have been, I consider, over the top, throughout this entire process. So a lot of people have a lot of questions. So I've been taking questions from, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and just some questions I may have on my own. And again, this is very informal. I just wanted to get with you guys. I think first and foremost, and both Ashleigh and Bud, you guys both feel free to discuss, is the creative process. How did this even come about? I think for me, that was the biggest thing as well. We always knew I was never going to see Back to the Future 4, or at least hopefully not. And, this is the closest thing a fans really are going to get to it. So how did this even come about?
Well, I don't know if this was ever contemplated to be so big and so interesting and stuff like that. I mean, and I didn't know it was going to mean so much to the people in the community. So, I mean, that was more of a happy accident. What really happened is, so my agent, this is a true story that nobody knows, right? So my agent, his father is the reason why Christopher Lloyd is in television, right? His name's Bob Gersh. And Bob Gersh sent a letter. It's a very funny story, and I've talked to Christopher about it many times. So Bob Gersh saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right, in the 70s. And Bob Gersh ran a talent agent and literary agent out here in Beverly Hills. He sends a letter. That's when you take a piece of paper and you take this ink pen, you write on it and signed it and then lick it and send it, right? The letter in the 70s to Christopher Lloyd. Said, hey, I saw your performance in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I really want to represent you. I think we could do some work in television. And so with that letter, Christopher Lloyd, who really wanted to be a stage actor, gets in his car and drives, and it's a 1963 green convertible Porsche, right, which I've talked to him about many times, a tan interior, like a 356 Speedster. Drives cross country, lands in L.A., meets with Bob Gersh, signs him as a talent, right, because that's what things are done back then. And obviously, books Taxi, books all kinds of stuff like that. So fast forward 30, 35 years, whatever, his son, Bill Gersh, who's my agent, comes to me and says, what can we do with Christopher Lloyd? Right? He's our client. He's been my dad's client for 35 years. He's an amazing guy. He loves to work. He's excited about stuff. And if you guys know anything about my background, I do a ton of stuff with cars, right? So in the meeting at my office, I'm like, let's go search for the DeLorean. Right, the DeLorean's got this storied past. We don't know what's happened to and it was a huge show at the time, but we don't know what's happened to the movie ones. We don't know what happened to the gold ones. What is a true story about the factory? I mean, it was like 8-part series, right, at the time, and we really started to dive in during the early creative, right, and really it's just me and my agent, and we're sitting there writing and developing this stuff. And then it's very funny. I get to tell a really, really bad story. It's good, but it's super bad, right? And they're gonna hate me for it, but maybe they won't watch this. So then, and that was like July of 2019. So I wrote the proposal, did everything, did the deck. And then I said, okay, I'm ready. I think I can go meet Christopher. So I had to go up to Christopher's house up near Santa Barbara and sit down and have lunch with him, which was just mind-blowing, right? Sitting down with Christopher Lloyd, having a conversation with him. and we started riffing on, what was cool, what was interesting, things that he would like to add, some stuff that was different, some stuff that he's always wondered about in the fandom, and he starts really kind of talking to it. I mean, you obviously saw a different version of Christopher Lloyd in the series, right? Because he really kind of got into it, because he's always a very reserved, kind of super mellow, sign some autographs, say hi, take some pictures, and this one he kind of got into. So 2 or 3 meetings later, I got involved with Chris. We started the pitch process. And this is the funny story that just ended today in a good way. One of the first places we went was Peacock, right? Which is the new streaming platform over at NBC Universal, right? So we talked to Peacock, we had a conversation, we had all the heads of the network in it. And today I was in a meeting with Peacock, and they said to me, how come you didn't bring that Back to the Future show here? We're NBC. And I'm like, dude, I did. I brought it there. You guys turned it down. The guy no longer works there, right? So nobody gets harmed in this thing, but the guy no longer works there. He told me that the Back to the Future property is the perfect thing that would work for NBC Universal Peacock, right? Because it's an IP that they own, stuff that they can launch off, you can watch the movie, but they turned it down. They didn't have the right funding, the right direction. They didn't know, what the playoff was. So yeah, that was a fun conversation I had this morning with the head of Peacock about how come the show didn't end up there. He was like, I love that. And we were wondering how come that wasn't pitched here. And I'm like, it was. Anyhow. So it's very interesting. So this is my conversation. So one morning, number very clear, it was like September 19th, 2019. I decided, because I have a 356 Speedster Porsche, and Chris always really talks about his Porsche, and he loves Porsches. So I decided to pick up Chris in my Porsche. So I drive to Hollywood in my convertible Porsche. This is not a big shot story. I'm just telling you, I'm trying to be cool and nostalgic and try to, hold it together while I'm driving around with Doc Brown in my car. So I pick up Christopher Lloyd at his hotel in my Porsche, and we drive literally 4 or 5 miles down the street to Century City to have a meeting with have a meeting with Discovery Channel. So I sit down with Discovery Channel. Everybody's there. Nancy Daniels, all the heads of the department. It's a pretty big meeting because usually when you bring a celebrity of his level in, it becomes a pretty big meeting. So it was a pretty big meeting, and literally Howard and Igal, who were the head of specials, and Nancy, who's the head of the channel, were like, "We're buying the show." And I'm like, great, which, by the way, rarely happens. It rarely happens when they tell you that we're buying the show. They usually just they give you "Oh, this is great, Chris. I love you. Goodbye. We'll call you later." Swear to God, it's never "we're buying the show." So they ended up, putting in offers for the show, and then they do what I'm not bagging on Discovery, but they do what all networks do. They start cooking it down. So they cooked it down to from 8 episodes to 4 episodes, right? And then I remember incredibly clearly, I got a call in December when I was in Alaska doing another show, and now they wanted to make it big. They wanted to make it the biggest show you could ever possibly imagine, and they wanted me to introduce every piece of Discovery talent. We had a MythBusters episode where we were proving them right and proving them wrong and doing all kinds of stuff with MythBusters, right? So that was cool. And then I had the Gold Rush people. We were on a search for the Gold Rush people. We're going to go find all the gold DeLoreans, right? So we started connecting the dots with all these ones. And then one of the aspects that we wrote in one of the episodes was we got Josh Gates, who was another Discovery talent. We're going to go look for all the missing movie cars, right? So I really wrote this 8-part series connecting the dots with every person. We were going to build the world's fastest DeLorean with boost. We were going to do all kinds of crazy stuff based around DeLorean with every piece of their talent, long story short, right? And the one episode that they liked the most was the Josh Gates one. They're like, hey, this Josh Gates one, this is genius. Okay, let's do this. And then that started to evolve. And then it just became a hunt for all 7 cars. And then it started expanding. So it went really small, and then it got really big, and then it kind of contracted down to 4. So, fortunate enough, it's really good on Discovery because it wouldn't be the same show without Josh. Bill and Patrick can attest that Josh he's so amazing. He's so good to work with. And you guys call him the show. He's so easy and effortless. And then the happy accidents happen for us is that those guys really, father-son kind of got along. They started bagging on each other. They had a really good chemistry, and Chris was this curmudgeon, and Josh was kind of playful and fun and like a super fan. So it really just, the whole thing kind of worked. So there's a lot of people involved. Ashleigh was involved really early on when we were taking all the different versions of the show and building it out. And so here's another story that nobody knows. The show that you guys saw was 2 days away from not happening. And I'll explain. Is we started the ramp up in March of 2020, like March 1st of 2020. We got greenlit to go. So we were heading to production. I hired people. We got camera guys. We started doing locations. We were going to shoot at the Peterson Museum, and Ashleigh can tell you, like on the 16th or 18th or something like that, the following Monday. So the world came to an end on a Thursday. The Monday, we were going to start shooting the series.
Everything was ready to go. All the permits, all the gear, everybody was in, and then everything stopped.
So everything stopped. So then what happens is, because creative people oddly can't help themselves or whatever for a good reason this time. And so I got back on the phone with Discovery Channel, and they're like, I'm like, what now? They're like, oh, this is great. Okay, now let's rewrite the whole thing. Like, we're 2 days away from going, right? We got everything approved. We got scripts approved. We're going to go shoot on Monday. Thursday, the world comes to an end. I don't care. I'm just doing emails and making phone calls. And their attitude is, this gives us more time to. First of all, there's no more money to rewrite, but let's spend the next 8 months to rewrite. So we started working on the rewrite. Well, I mean, obviously for good reasons, because it came out amazing, and we all can attest to how amazing it is. So when you have an extra 5 months to put a lot of thought process and rewrite, and literally a lot of stuff didn't happen because of COVID. So a lot of the stuff that we were able to do, I mean, the Sheas were going to be one of our places, but we were going to go to like 15 places, and we didn't. We were going to go to Illinois and drive Africa DeLoreans and do all kinds of crazy stuff, but then. Really, because of COVID. Yeah. Do you live in Illinois? Is that where you're at?
Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah. So we were going to go. What's that guy's name, Ashleigh? The guy with all the.
Rich.
Yeah, Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the monster truck and the limo and the.
Oh, and he probably hates us, by the way, because Ashleigh was all over him and talking to him and calling him and saying, we're coming out, it's happening. And when COVID hit, we're like, yeah, instead of going to 10 places, we're going to go to 4, right? Because Chris doesn't want to travel that much. Josh doesn't want to travel that much. I literally got legally threatened that I can't get either one of them sick. And there was this overarching thing that his wife is going to kill me if I say this, but like nobody wanted to kill Doc Brown. It's kind of a saying we had, right? So we had to be very careful with our COVID protocol because you don't want to get the 82-year-old icon of our series sick. So, we had a lot of protocols. So we really had to kind of revamp the whole thing, not only because we had more time to write, but also because we had with these restrictions where we can only go to 3 or 4 places. And, luckily Patrick, that's right. Bill put up a big fight too, though. That's right. Yeah, Bill put up a big fight. We should talk about that.
I'd be happy to. He put up the fight, but it's my fault.
It is his fight. So here's what it was. And part of it is really unbelievable. But so we were scheduled. We said, okay. So we ended up cooking everything down to the 3 or 4 locations we're going to go. And then Ashleigh had bought tickets because magically the first thing Ashleigh does is buy plane tickets. I can't explain that. But she buys plane tickets. She books hotels and then works on all the other stuff.
And then you just move them later. Just trust me.
Right. Yeah. So spend the money first, and then work out the details. All right. So all that started happening. The first day of shooting was going to be, I don't know, Patrick, you can tell me. I don't know. It's going to be June or July or something like that. I can't remember what it was. It was October, right?
It was October, but yeah.
It was going to be October because I finally got the series back up and running and got the scripts approved, and we got all the travel locations back in June or July. We're going to start shooting in October, and then Bill called us and says he's not going to do it because Ashleigh already booked it. He's not going to do it. We're like, what are you talking about?
No,
like, no,
he wasn't going to out Patrick. So there was.
That's right. Well, Patrick was going to be on vacation.
Right.
Goes,
And so,
how dare you? And, had his honeymoon scheduled. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we're not.
my fault.
We've already bought tickets. We've already bought hotels, and Patrick and Bill said, "Nope, my son's magically going to be on his honeymoon." So he found some girl to marry him, which I can't believe. He found a girl, and then magically we can't do it anymore. And Bill held the line and said, "We're not shooting unless Patrick's here." So we took.
and I believe Ashleigh said, you're going to cost us a lot of money. And I said to Ashleigh, you know what you're going to find out? We're worth it. But Patrick and I are not only just father and son, we're partners. And without him as part of the package, it just doesn't work. So Ashleigh was well-driven and very assertive, but he met her match when it came to me, and we did work it out, and were we worth it?
Yeah, of course. It was the best call. It was the only way to do that for sure.
Yeah, the best decision. It was the best decision ever. They were amazing and magic together. It would have been the same without the two of you, but we were just, we're always working on a schedule, right? And I think this thing's kind of about, all behind the scenes stuff, right? All the dirty laundry, not all the dirty laundry, but enough the dirty laundry to keep things moving. So anyhow, that's one question. This is going to be a long call if I continue to ramble like that.
I've heard a couple of podcasts that you've done, Bud. It's 55 minutes of Bud and 5 minutes of everybody else.
That's how it usually goes.
I'm just along for the ride. So no, I love the whole thing from start to finish. There's no good. I literally was like a child, kid in a candy store, to use the analogy, just grinning from ear to ear. Just the jokes that were put in there. I think there's something for everybody in it, and specifically for the DeLorean community who know where the cars are, how hard it is to even get parts nowadays for these cars. The actual parts that went on the screen used car, they're not impossible to get. A lot of them obviously are. And I know, there's a way that Hollywood likes to do things, like with the Apex Electronics, how you can just walk in and buy parts.
I'm sure there's stuff there, right? Only if Danny plants the stuff there, though, right?
Yeah. There's a conversation on one of the DeLorean forums on Facebook, and it's like, boy, if it was only that easy, if we could only go to Apex and just, because people go there still to this day. You guys probably talked to the
Guilty,
just searching for those parts. And Patrick and I were talking before you guys had come on about the parts that I've been able to acquire, the actual authentic parts I've been able to acquire for my car. And I loved how it was built and how you guys went about doing that. I thought everybody got a laugh out of it. So I think at least for the DeLorean community or the Time Machine builder community, it was kind of one of those things that all of us were able to kind of look at each other and just chuckle about and be like, boy, if it was only that easy, a lot of people would be a lot further along than they are now. And I will say, one of the questions I had a lot of people ask, and I think I already know the answer, but just for people who don't know, and actually, you and I had a conversation on the phone about the Oxnard car and the Oxnard pictures and the big smokestack. People were saying, that's not really the Oxnard car. Why didn't they go to Orlando? Why didn't they do this? And it wasn't, people were not mad. Again, much like the Apex Electronics, right? Yet there has to be some kind of, movie magic happens with that. Was it strictly because, hey, we couldn't get down to Orlando, we didn't have access to it? I think that's one of the from somebody else who worked on it. So I think they weren't able to get down to Orlando, and Orlando just didn't kind of have the back and forth enough to be able to make it happen. Is that one of those things?
Yeah, there's a big story there. It's bigger than that. So whoever you talked to wasn't in the trenches with Ashleigh, and because it was an absolute mess. But first I have to say, the demeanor. One of the things that was really tough about this is when you're doing a fan service, when you're doing fan fiction like this, and I was more nervous than most because I wanted to make sure that we do the right thing for you guys. I know I turned it off. it off. Happens.
It's not fired.
Yeah. Everybody's on fire. So what doing something like in the fan service point of view was very nerve wracking. So we want to make sure that we didn't know if we're going to get ripped apart or picked apart by you guys or what's happening. And really, the community kind of understands our process better than I thought they were going to understand the process. And they really gave us a lot of leeway, right? We had because we said stuff, we did stuff that obviously was there to move the story along, right? And because we all know wherever stuff is, but the Oxnard car particularly is a really, really crazy story, right? And so I'll do a short version of it, right? Because Patrick thinks I talk, right? And he's got to go on vacation soon or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Not until April 30th. We got plenty of time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I can talk for 30 days.
He's not going to get married again. So.
No.
No, yeah. Only once. Technically, you should only do it once. Anyhow, so the Oxnard car was interesting. We originally started that we found the Oxnard car, right? And we know it was in Orlando. You got to remember the timing, right? Because everybody who listens to this knows we know what we're talking about. We absolutely got blocked. I'll tell you what it is. We found the Oxnard car before COVID, right? And the Oxnard car we know was sitting at Universal on display. Absolutely, right? So we wrote the scripts, we rewrote the scripts that had all these plans, and then obviously COVID hit. We start rewriting the script. One of the trips that survived was Orlando. Okay, great. So we would call our contact at Universal and say, hey, we're planning a trip. We want this, what this do. And we got all the, luckily Ashleigh booked the plane tickets and got the hotels in Orlando. And then all of a sudden, Orlando calls Universal here in the Hollywood and says, we don't know where the car's at. We're like, what do you mean you don't know where the car's at? Yeah, it's not here. We don't know where it's at. Sorry. So, okay, wait a minute. Then we go back channel and do some other investigation with some people like you, and we know exactly where we know it's in a warehouse, and they switched it out in April. Wait a minute. So why'd you? Okay, so then I call them, and I'm like, or probably Ashleigh calls the ones in Orlando, not me. I call the ones here. It's like, hey, by the way, we know you switched out in April. We know it's sitting in a warehouse. We'll just go to the warehouse. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be on display for us to film our thing. It's just it can be in a crappy warehouse. The person on the other end of the phone says, we don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, we have no idea what you're talking about. We're like, really? You don't know what we're talking about? Like, we have people who've put their eyes on the Oxnard car in the warehouse. Do you want me to give you the number of the warehouse, the studio where it's at? And we'll tell you that. Yeah, we honestly have no idea what you're talking about. So then I had to have an honest conversation with licensing and franchise here in Los Angeles. I'm like, hey, guys, we have a little bit of a problem. I go, do you want to be on Discovery Channel saying that you lost the Oxnard car, or you randomly got rid of it, or you randomly gave it to some random guy? Because it was sitting there in April and now it's disappeared. Is that how you want this to portray on Discovery Channel? Because that's what I'll say. I wasn't being a dick. I was just kind of saying, hey, by the way, like, this is the information I'm getting, and I don't know how to fix this because that's what Orlando is telling us. Yep, we know it was there in April and now it's disappeared. Literally, don't come here. And we're like, yeah, we don't need they kept on saying this too. They kept on telling Ashleigh, the park's closed. The park's closed. Oh, that's good because we don't want people around Chris and Josh. So the park being closed because the park here was closed too, and we still filmed. And so the Oxnard car disappeared. And so what we really didn't have much of a choice other than recreate it, because if we were telling the real story that it magically disappeared and they replaced it with a replica car and there's some kind of alleged owner dispute or whatever is going on, it's not really sexy and not really fun. It doesn't really help us tell our story. So we had to recreate the car here because of whatever that. We still don't know what's going on. I mean, I know we're super close. We know that there's some kind of weird thing going on, and
the ownership.
What
they're trying to establish ownership, from what I've been told, and again, this is just from different people who have been around the cars. They're trying to establish ownership to figure out if they were going to restore it, who's paying for it. I mean, that car is in I think Bill and Patrick, you guys have probably seen that car is in rough shape.
It's atrocious.
The frame of that thing is just beat to pieces, and so
It's terrible.
they replaced it with a nice replica, and then it's been sitting in storage. Is the last I've heard. And
it was so exciting to actually find it, like know that it actually still exists. It's still real. It is in the warehouse. It seems very accessible. And then everything was lined up to go do it. And then again, it was like, nope. Something happened that had nothing really to do with us, but we had to figure out a way.
I really like how you got a stovepipe replica to look like the one that was actually on the Oxnard car I thought that was a genius.
Well, we had to do a giveaway for that car, right?
Unfortunately, yes, that's been, as you guys know, that's been a sore subject in the DeLorean community with that thing. No, and again, most of the feedback, or all the feedback I've gotten, and I don't know if Bill and Patrick could attest to it, is nobody was ever mad at it. It was funny to us. It was like, it's movie magic, right? It's one of those things, with COVID, things happen like that. So, it was never anything that anybody ever got mad about. I would personally like to hear from Bill and Patrick, and I'm assuming if anybody ever watches this, what it was like for you guys to be a part of this. And I know you guys have been a part of a lot of other things, but particularly something this big on this scale, at your guys' place. And for anybody who doesn't know, Bill and Patrick Shea have the largest collection of Back to the Future memorabilia, screen use memorabilia, cars. I mean, you name it, they have it. So, and you guys were featured in it. So what was it like for you guys? Any behind the scenes stories you guys care to tell that you can tell? Or just what was it like working with, obviously, Ashleigh and Bud? Now's your chance to get back.
Be nice. Be nice.
Well, there were a lot of moving parts, and we were very happy to be involved from the get-go. And of course, we were first contacted in early 2020, and then things got pushed back, as you know, and then Ashleigh and Lee came out the day before, and we have our collection set up in a particular way where there's a particular flow, and the people we have come and we enjoy showing it, but to facilitate the shooting, we had to totally transform the two barns to put pieces in place so that it would facilitate the filming. And so we did a lot of yeoman work beforehand to be sure that things were ready, so that when we met in that secret location in Gardner, the next town over, that we were able to get it rolling. And there was a lot of fun because knowing that a lot of times T's have to be crossed and I's have to be dotted in terms of using a location. I took Ashleigh and Lee to 3 different spots to film the very beginning with Doc and Josh in our 49 Packard. And when we went to the first couple of places, they were potential. But one was a Walmart parking lot, and I told them that our times in the parking lot, and by the time they kind of catch on, we're done. And so that was a possibility. And Lee let Ashleigh off to go in and try to razzle dazzle manager. But in between time, I said, I think I got a perfect spot. It's a shopping plaza in the next town over, and it's practically empty. And I believe that it would work out, and to make it look like it was Logan Airport. And once I took Lee there, he said, "Oh, this will work. And who do we have to talk to?" And I said, "Nobody." I said, between Patrick and I, we can either dazzle them with our brilliance or baffle them with our bull. And I said, "How long do you need to shoot that section to kind of get set up?" And I believe it was around an hour for the gathering of the troops and for Patrick to teach Josh how to drive their Packard. I believe I said to Josh beforehand, "Okay, this is my car. be careful with my car or I will wring your neck. I don't care who you are. And the fact that you grew up in Massachusetts, this is my car. And so the two of them drove around this plaza 3 or 4 times. And you can't believe the number of people that kind of stopped. And they were all looking in the car and they were saying, "Oh, that's a really nice looking car." They didn't realize that it was Josh and Patrick and then Josh and Chris in the vehicle. They loved the car more. And then probably just about the time we were ready to rock, some people came out from one of the stores and I sent number one son down to dazzle or baffle one or the other, and that worked out just fine. So that part of it, we were able to squeeze in and worked out without signing contracts and getting releases, and why not? It's all for the best, and we're helping to put the next town on the map too. So and then it was a very long day, but we accomplished a great deal in the course of doing it. And I was extremely impressed by the choreography. The idea that you had some camera guys that you had hired that day, and you had your nucleus of your crew come in, and just how smoothly it went. The 12 hours went by so quickly, and so much was accomplished, and that's because everybody cooperated. I think I remember Bud like getting out a towel and wiping down the Packard after we had a little rainstorm. So there's the big kahuna getting into the trenches with the rest of us and doing his thing. But and then the DI, that would be the drill instructor, Miss Ashleigh. She was whipping us into form and shape. And the idea that right in the middle of COVID, there was total COVID protocol, that it was, you never felt that you were out of the safety zone. You had the protocol officer there, that Scott was a great guy, and he was constantly checking with us and sanitizing our hands. And so that was a big factor, that under those circumstances, you could do as much as you could and get it done. But from my standpoint, it was a major effort with a major result. So don't ask me to do it again tomorrow, but we're glad we did it. I look at everything as an investment. And the whole idea is to continue the thrill of the trilogy. And I believe that this will perpetuate its memory. And the whole idea of what we do and why we do it is to put smiles on people's faces. And for those who didn't have to wear the mask that day, we got good feedback on body language. And so without doubt, it was very, very positive to do. Now, Patrick, what do you think?
I just wanted to say that we've been on cloud nine since this whole thing. It's just, what an honor to have, a screen legend in Christopher Lloyd at our place. And what an honor to meet Josh Gates, who I've been such a fan of for so long. And when you see Josh Gates, what you see is what you get. He is as honest and natural and funny, and feels like he's your best friend the second you meet him. What a tremendous guy! As a matter of fact, Expedition's on notice on in a couple of minutes. Are we almost done? Or yeah. And he's just and everybody all the way down the line, total pros, totally smooth. Just a wonderful day, and I don't know if anybody of you know this, but when Chris went to eat lunch, he went into our kitchen, and my mother was in there with him, and he was just sitting at the table, just eating his food, and I walked in, and I said, "Do you mind if I join you?" And he said, "No, sit down." So I sat there for half an hour, just him and I, talking. Christopher Lloyd and I talking at our kitchen table. It was just a out of body experience. It was fantastic.
And Bud likes the anecdotes, and so do I. So Chris needed a little bit of alone time, and we offered our home because I know from a standpoint of budget, you guys are going to put trailers on the property, and then that got cut back. And we said, hey, our home, which was built in 1780, we believe that we can certainly make Chris comfortable. So Chris came in and went into the living room while Donna was kind of putting things together to give him a bite to eat. And she could hear talking from the living room. And she was saying, nobody else is in there besides Chris. And she said, well, Reverend Jim, he's probably talking to himself. And he looked around the corner and he was studying his lines. So, and then after he had lunch, my bride, Donna, who I'll be married to for 55 years on the 16th of April, she was very accommodating and likes to stay in the background. She had a chance to chat along with Patrick with Chris. And after he finished his lunch, she had some sweets. And she brought them over and offered them to Chris. And he looked up at her and he said, "You temptress." That is something that my wife will never forget. And in the course of the day, now here's a guy, 82 years old, but you know what? Bud has said it. He still got it. And I will say he probably took 3 cat naps in the course of the day. But we're not the type of people that are looking for 1,000 autographs here, sign this, sign that. But the night before, my daughter took a couple of folding chairs and put slips on the back and made them into director's chairs. So one said Christopher Lloyd and one said Josh Gates. And they used them. They put them to good use. And like in the course of the day when Chris took a little cat nap, I said to him, hey, you enjoying the director's chairs? And he said, are you kidding me? He said, when I shoot with these guys, I'm lucky to get a folding chair. He said, here we are. I got a nice director's chair. So at the end of the day, without being told, they said, hey, do you want us to sign these? So our granddaughter, Catherine, who is infatuated with Josh, and Josh was very accommodating and spent a little time with her and a couple of photos. So he signed it off to Catherine, and Chris signed off his share, and we gave them to our granddaughter. So once again, great memories from a good day.
And part of that is being, we got all releases, all location releases. I don't know what Bill is talking about, but every place we shot, we have a release.
So I know another big question, and I certainly would have no idea what it would be. Ashleigh and Bud, you guys may not even have the answer to this either, is, because there's a lot of people around the world that are just dying to see this. Is there any plans that, I know it's going to be on Discovery here within the next few weeks probably, but as far as worldwide, people that are in Brazil or Mexico or Canada or anywhere else, is this going to be available to them online, or are there any thoughts of like a Blu-ray DVD release, anything like that?
Yeah, probably not Blu-ray DVD. It'll, as Discovery Plus starts permeating the globe, it's gonna be around for sure. But on the linear channels, the good news is Discovery has 75 linear channels around the world, so I know it'll be all over. I mean, every place I travel, there's always a Discovery, right? So this will definitely be on Discovery linear channel around the world. It'll be a couple more, 2 or 3 more years before Discovery Plus gets to some of those countries. But all the shows that I do from Discovery end up on Discovery Latin America, Discovery Europe, Discovery, Asia. So yeah, it'll go around. I mean, Discovery owns this show. And I know Discovery is very happy with it. The feedback is, like you guys said, has been amazing. And Universal is extremely happy with it. Bob Gale is extremely happy with it, which I can tell you that funny story because that was a little crazy and creepy. As a matter of fact, I just got my autographed copy of the book. Bob sent me a book with the new DeLorean book he just sent. He goes, "You got to have this." He just sent it to me a minute ago. But yeah, it'll definitely be around the world. Discovery is pretty good about pushing stuff out. All of our stuff will be around. So yeah, it's a little, it didn't happen until 5 weeks ago. 5 weeks ago, probably 6 weeks ago, is they call us and they moved up our air date by 6 weeks. And they said, oh, by the way, we got great news for you. You're going to be you're premiering on Discovery Plus on March 15th. And your act structure has changed and your clock has changed. And me, I'm a little bit of a smart ass. I'm like, what part of that is good news? None of that is good news. We're not finished with the thing yet. We've already done this. We're gonna hand it off in April. It was supposed to go on the linear channel in April, but because Discovery Plus is kind of this big, gigantic, shiny object, and we're going to put a lot of promotion for it, Discovery, the top guys at Discovery, David Zaslav, were looking for kind of prominent projects they could put on there and promote. We got chosen, and Ashleigh, not me, but Ashleigh had to work her ass off to get this thing together and charm everybody, and all the VO and Josh overtime. Yeah, it was kind of a pushing up by 6 weeks was kind of a new a little push for us, but it was good.
I do know that Discovery's asked me several times for when they can get the international version. So though there isn't an exact date, I do know that it's in the plan, I believe.
Good.
They want those for sure.
Yeah, I know that'll make a lot of people happy. I mean, there's inevitably going to be people who bootleg it and try and put it on whatever. I think I saw one episode somebody posted on Facebook, and I think other people were trying to flag it. I mean, people do want to see it, so hopefully they go about it obviously the right way with watching on Discovery. So hopefully that's. I know we're running out of time. I was only supposed to have you guys for a half hour, so I certainly don't want to go too much more given your guys' time frames. But I guess maybe I'll just go around the horn and ask you guys what it can be an experience from it. It can be a scene. What was the biggest thing that you took away, or was your favorite aspect from the show, whether it be any of the scenes you were in, or maybe something behind the scenes, anything like that?
Ashleigh, you go first. You're in like 10 scenes.
Well, I think the favorite part of the entire thing was being able to show Michael J. Fox the car at the very end in New York, being able to see him and Chris Lloyd. I mean, they really are friends in real life. So yeah. To see that was very awesome. And then he was wonderful. And then, the final product, and it was the culmination of so much hard work from everybody involved, that was really, really special. And to know that that's not movie magic, that is something that is actually going to benefit the Michael J. Fox Foundation and is really getting auctioned off. So that felt very just very real and such a big payoff and really satisfying. So for me, that was it. Next to Bill and Patrick.
Well, I'd like to give a very, very, very big shout out to the video editors who made me look not like a complete idiot, because I'll tell you,
that's all special effects.
Oh my God. I tell you, it was such a long day. We're not big Hollywood movie stars. So by 6 o'clock, came around, I was stumbling and fumbling, and Lee bailed me out. Lee was awesome. He was literally at the end, when the final thing that we shot, he was crouched down on his knees next to me, feeding me lines. so I didn't screw it up. But I just know, honestly, it's an amazing series. We're so proud to be part of it. I've had tremendous feedback from everybody that I've talked to about it. Not one negative thing I've heard about it. Everybody that I've talked to about it has said it's just tremendous, and we're just thrilled to be a part of it. It's all for a great cause. Obviously, we've been watching the auctions on the Cherry Buzz site with the time machine and the tour and the shirt that Bud donated. So just an overwhelmingly positive experience for us.
Bill?
I like to think that more so from what we took away from it is what it means. And what it means is that Back to the Future is eternal, that there will be so many people that will engage themselves and see the series and see the genius that went into the series, a lot of the subtle things that, of course, being detail-oriented, that I noticed that were really magical, and that energizes people. One quick story. Right after the series premiered, I got a call from a lady whose husband is 40 years old, and he is in the latent stages of Alzheimer's. She said it's really tragic because he's a absolute wonderful guy, and to see him go downhill at such an early age and what's transpired. There's one thing that stimulates his brain, and that is the term "Great Scott." He hears that term, and he immediately goes to the television set or the DVD, and every day this man watches Back to the Future, and it kind of gets him through the day. So they live in Massachusetts, and they had seen the series, and she said, "Is there any chance? I know what's going on with COVID. Is there any chance that we could just drive by your place and he could see the car just from a distance? We understand all this." And I said, "No, there's no chance of that. How about I invite you into our barn and we spend some time together?" And she said, "Well, I wouldn't expect that." And I said, "I'm not going to offer you any less than that. I want you to come, bring him, and we'll use COVID protocol." And to see him walk into my Back to the Future barn and the look on his face, and we spent 2 hours together, and there were a lot of tears on the part of the wife, and the idea that show was what motivated her to take the chance to contact me, because we're far from aloof, that's for sure. And the whole idea is that we want to share, and we're just hoping that this doesn't sort of overwhelm us, because since the 15th of March, we've had 38 people groups that want to come and take the tour, and it'll be 100% of the money will go to the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and it's people are coming from Delaware and New York already, and it's only on Discovery Plus. So there's we live a lot of different things we do in our life, and so we've got to temper that, but we have tours already scheduled for October, and up to 8 people, and they're going to see the whole collection, including what we have behind us, which is going to be an absolute, unbelievable, amazing, beyond what the movie showed, time clock sequence. And I've got some real incredible people working with us on that, and it's going to be just beyond magic. And so eventually that'll be a YouTube, which we will once again put out to share with the world. But all factors being considered, we're very, very pleased how it worked out.
Short story.
Short story. You talk a lot. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad we were able to double the tourism in Hubbardston, Massachusetts. That's pretty good. Big for you guys. Before I get to my 2 reasons, my 2 takeaways from the series, I do want to. I'm going to drop something fun to all of you, and only Ashleigh knows this. You guys will know this too. So here's the fun thing. This is going to be kind of reverse pirate. Which sounds very strange once I said that, actually. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it. So the international episodes are 10 minutes longer than the one you guys saw. So there's 10 minutes more. There's 40 minutes more content. So now you guys have to figure out how to get a copy of those, because they're much longer. In television, the United States clock is a lot shorter. And on linear channel, it's 41:30, but internationally, it's 48. So in each episode, we put 10 minutes worth of extra content. Sometimes it's outtakes, sometimes it's written series, written facts and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that was, in order to conform to the 38 minutes we had to put on Discovery Plus, we jammed it back in. So now, guess what? For you super fans, their version is better. Their version is longer, right? It's 10 minutes longer.
That's awesome.
That's
now you got to figure out how to get it.
I know I get sent a lot of stuff, so I'm hoping some of the people who send me. I mean, I get stuff. Like I said, I didn't know anybody working on the show. They just started sending me private messages on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, well, this is cool. But
Well, yeah, that was a big issue. This sorry to interrupt you, Jason, but the big issue is I've never worked on a show where people were so fanatic, and that we had crew members and we had people, and we had crowd people, and we had people that we hired that wouldn't normally. And we work with, and it doesn't really matter. We work with very big names on very high profile shows. This one was a leaky boat, man. Everybody around here was like knew somebody who knew somebody, shoving stuff. And we wake up the next morning after shooting Quincy Hills, and there's photos of our set on Jason's website. Like, all right, wait a minute. There's only 30 people who work for me. I know most of them by name, so I started texting them not very nice messages. Like, which one of you idiots did this? You can't. It was really horrible, by the way. You can't keep a secret anywhere, right?
I was just building the excitement for you guys. That's it. That's
It was horrible. That was horrible. Anyhow, so to wrap up, I'll make it short. I will. There's two parts of this. One's bittersweet, and the other one's really good, right? So my mother, who passed away about 5 years ago, was the second or third biggest behind Patrick and Bill, a Back to the Future fan. She's got Jack, and she's got this amazing. She's going to be extremely pissed off that I was a guest inside the Back to the Future world for the past year and a half, like I have, much less hanging out with Bob Gale and Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox and all this stuff. So, it's amazing and bittersweet. I talk to my brother about it all the time. I have all my mom's Back to the Future stuff, and she would be fairly happy, but annoyed that she didn't get to meet Michael and Pat and Chris. The big takeaway for me is that, I'm in the entertainment business. We're in the storytelling business, and anytime that you can do something that's important for people, as Bill pointed out, sometimes it's just memories. But what we get to do in this one, the whole through line of this series was to be able to help people with Parkinson's, right? And the only reason we're able to get Michael J. Fox is because when I wrote this section, and if you know my background, I build a lot of cars for a lot of people. That's kind of what we do. And so I decided early on, it's like, Michael's not going to do this for money. Michael's not going to do this for fame, but he's going to do it to help other people. So what can I do? What can I offer Michael to get him into this, right? And I'm just going to build him a time machine. If I build him a time machine and you auction it off to help other people, will you do this, right? And he absolutely said yes. And he's like, "You're going to give us a time machine?" I was talking to the foundation. I'm like, yeah, we're going to build it. I'm working in the budget. I'll get people. We'll get parts. We'll build it. We'll give it to you. So for me, anytime that you can be in a profession and help people, right? And I know we just do TV, right? But when you get that interesting confluence where you can do your art, do your business, and at the end of it, you get to help hundreds of people or even one person with the auction of this car and some of the other items. I mean, our hope is with the auction of the car, which is it? I don't know how much you bid on it so far, Bill. 165. It's pretty low, right?
Pretty low. Hey, I'm a professional auction goer. I'm going to wait till the last minute.
So anyhow, our hope the car doesn't go to Bill. Our hope is the car we raise $1 million to try to help Parkinson's. And the reason I say that number is we wrote it in the script a couple of times. I'll tell you something, another back thing is there was a part of the episode that I wrote that the car goes for $1.1 million. And I was just thinking that number, right? It's like, okay, we're going to put in the headline in the newspaper, 1.1 DeLorean Time Machine going for $1.1 million. As really
1.21 is what you wanted to bring.
Yeah.
What?
1.21 million.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That would have been a much better homage than mine. But I really wanted to kind of put that in people's brains, like, hey, this car's going to go for a lot of money. And then we kind of said, well, what if it doesn't? And then the newspaper is not effective. And, there's a lot of people with a lot of crazy logic around me, which I generally don't listen to anyhow. But really, for us, if the car can go for $1 million and we can, because really, everybody, the Shays, Bob Gale, Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, entrusted me and my company to tell the story and do something good, right? And Discovery Channel's behind us, they're pushing it, and then they got Charity Buzz, and they're pushing it extremely hard and posting all the time, doing sponsor ads and stuff like that. So we have a lot of people behind us, and I don't want this car to go for 150,000. Had these screaming matches of discovery. It's like, I can't do a 4-part series on finding a car and building it for Michael J. Fox, and then it ends up on eBay for $50,000. I go, what does that tell about storytelling? I know it's a little bit personal and selfish, but I would think that I have my goal if that car goes for a lot of money to help Michael. That's all.
Yeah,
We'll drink to that.
definitely. Yeah. Well, again, I don't want to keep you guys on too much longer. I know everybody's got things going on and much better things to do than talking to me, especially. But no,
Don't say that.
Not true.
Don't say that.
Phil and Patrick, you guys. I'll continue to say it. You guys are literally the embodiment of the Back to the Future community. Everybody
Thank you.
that I know, everybody is just thrilled that you guys were in the show. That backdrop, I wish it was more in the show. I mean, that is just.
It's in a longer version.
I'm gonna find those longer versions. No, you guys again. You guys
Thank you,
continue
Ashleigh.
to impress with just how you guys get your hands on some of this stuff is crazy. But I'm looking forward to visiting you guys as soon as COVID is done. My buddy Peter will pick me up and we'll drive up and spend a day and have some good times. And Ashleigh and Bud, the job you guys did is above and beyond. I mean, I think this is going to live on for generations to come. Again, I don't ever want there to be a Back to the Future 4, but to me, this is the closest thing that could come to it. And I think the job that you guys did, the attention to detail, just from start to end, was great. So from everybody, all the Back to the Future fans out there, I mean, that you may not be able to hear or talk to, thank you. Appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
To be continued.
To be continued. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate your time.
right.
So we'll be talking
Yeah,
soon.
thanks very much.